Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So, over the last 36, 48 hours, my inbox has been filling up with questions about how to make something quieter. They're coming from both Second Amendment advocates and gun control advocates, both, I think, hoping I'm going to tell the other person they're wrong. So, I guess today we're going to go through all the questions and we are going to talk about suppressors. Silencers. We're going to approach it the same way we did the gun control conversation. I'm going to give you the facts and you can debate it in the comments section. My opinion on this really doesn't matter much. Okay, so the first and most common question, what exactly is a silencer? A really bad name for a suppressor. Doesn't make anything silent. There's a lot of myths involving suppressors and we're going to go through them right now. You have to understand the science behind how they work and what they do to understand the debate. So, we're going to start there. The average gunshot, it can range in decibels from 150 to 200, plus or minus a little bit. The suppressors today reduce that anywhere from 10 to 45, depending on what type of ammo is being used, what type of weapon it's on, the caliber of the weapon, and the type of suppressor. All of these things can change how much it's being reduced. The average is about 30. Now, when you're just looking at the numbers, that doesn't seem like a huge reduction. And in one way, it's not. But it doesn't tell the whole story unless you understand that decibels are a logarithmic system, meaning 200 decibels isn't double 100 decibels. It's not twice as loud. It's more like 1,000 times as loud. So a 30 decibel reduction is pretty substantial. However, even once you put the suppressor on the weapon and fire it, you're going to get decibels in the range of 115 to 150. Hearing loss can occur at 85. Okay. 115, 150, this is like sitting in your car with the stereo all the way up. It's not silent. It's really not. That's definitely a misnomer. So that's the sound science. Now, how do they work? It's a tube, and it's baffling. Suppressor joke. Inside the tube, there are baffles. And what these things do is they slow down the gas that's leaving it, what's pushing the bullet out of the barrel. It slows it down, and since it slows it down, it reduces the amount of bang that comes out the end. It's simple theory. Putting it into practice is a little bit harder. What do they do other than make the gunshot quieter? They reduce recoil by about a third. Now, if you're a sniper, they're really important because there are two sounds that come out of a gunshot. One is the bang. The other is a sonic crack that's coming off of the bullet itself as it travels through the air. If you can reduce the bang and leave the crack, as that bullet travels, that noise is bouncing off of everything around it. It makes it very hard to pinpoint the location of the shooter. It really does a good job of masking your location. This is why in a lot of theories there's confusion over the number of shooters because they're going off of what they heard. And it sounded like the shot came from over here and another one came from over here. It's probably the same bullet and they're experiencing the sound at two different times, so it seems like two bullets. They reduce the flash and in some cases completely eliminate it, the muzzle flash that comes out of the end of the barrel. The most important thing they do, as far as militarily speaking, it's not the reduction in sound. It's that it changes the sound. It doesn't sound like a gunshot anymore. And if you're out somewhere where there's ambient noise in an urban area, or even here with the grasshoppers and crickets, that noise, if you're just letting off one shot, that's going to sound like anything other than a gunshot. Your mind will attribute it to something else, so it doesn't get reported, so it doesn't raise an alarm. That's why they're really important for the military. How are they used illegally? They're not. Not in any statistically significant way. You can buy them legally in the U.S. The process, last person that I know that got one, it took them about 8 months to get the tax stamp and the paperwork through the ATF and all of that. The ATF knows you have it, and there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. And the statistics as far as how often they're used in crime, it's normally about 40 a year. Those aren't even all violent crimes. But even if you took all of them, you're looking at 0.003% of silencers are used in a crime. It's doesn't happen very often. Yes, advanced and sophisticated organized crime, they use them. Smugglers use them. High-end illicit gun dealers use them. But those people tend to only, well, kill each other. It's not something that the general populace has to worry about. I know all of this is very fresh in everybody's mind because of the shooting, but prior to this, when was the last time you heard about one being used? They don't get used very often. The most common illegal use that I'm aware of is hunting out of season, because just like the sniper, masking that location makes it hard for the game warden to find them. That's the most common illegal use that I'm aware of. Why are they used legally? Why literally 1 million people have one? If you combine hearing protection and a suppressor, you get below that 85 decibels. They're used typically by people who shoot a lot, and I mean a lot. And this is an extremely law-abiding crowd. These are the guys that have the Molon Labe sticker, come and take it, on their truck, right next to the thin blue line sticker, because they still just have no idea who's going to come and take it. These are very, very law-abiding people. That's who uses them. You don't find them in the normal criminal world very often. Let's see. The next question was actually this cracked me up. You changed my opinion of the assault weapons ban by explaining how easily they were manufactured at home. I looked it up and found a tutorial of a guy who made an AK out of a shovel. Are suppressors easily manufactured at home? Kind of. You can make them at home. You can. You're not going to achieve the same quality, and you're not going to get the same decibel reduction that you get in a commercial one. It's much harder to make a properly functioning suppressor than it is a firearm. There are improvised ways to do them. There's little cheap tricks. Most of them aren't good for more than a few shots, and the ones that are good for more than that, the people that know how to make them, they're not telling anybody. That's still something that's pretty closely held in that community. They don't let that secret out. And then the important question, I guess, would a ban be effective? Yeah, but the reason it would be effective is probably the strongest argument anybody's going to be able to come up with against the ban. These are very, very law-abiding people. So if they were banned and they were told they had to turn them in, they would. They would. And they're registered. The ATF knows they have them. It's not like the bump stock ban, where it was just a piece of plastic or whatever, and nobody knew they had it, so they didn't have to turn it in. The suppressors are registered, and I mean, the people that own them will turn them in. So in a way, yeah, it would be effective. But you're taking them from people who are extremely law-abiding, that they're not going to use them in a mass shooting or in crime in general, going by the statistics. My understanding is that a lot of that 40 per year are people who did stuff with the suppressor that they shouldn't have under the regulations. They didn't store it properly, or they didn't, stuff like that. So that's a general overview of them. Now, the other question, is it necessary under the intent of the Second Amendment? Depends on how you look at the Second Amendment. If you look at it the way I do, the purpose of it is to be able to strike back against the government. Not really. It's not necessary. Could it be helpful in some situations? Maybe. But there are a whole lot of people who don't look at the Second Amendment that way. So that debate is definitely going to rage. Now, the one thing that I do want to point out is that I find it hilarious that Donald Trump has become more of an advocate for gun control than Obama ever was. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good night.